A very warm welcome to our esteemed guests and to all of you. May I kindly request Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General, CII, to deliver the welcome remarks and kindly moderate the session, please.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very special welcome to the dignitaries who are present with us. And I must say this is the first working day after the union budget was announced, and to get this remarkable response from our policymakers who have all given the budget to us is indeed a great honor and a pleasure for us at the CII. A very, very warm welcome to our Finance and Revenue Secretary, Shri Tuhin Kanta Pandey. Mr. Ajay Seth will be joining us very shortly, very soon. We have also here, as you can see, the Secretary, Department of Financial Services, Mr. M. Nagaraju, Dr. Arunish Chawla, Secretary, Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, DIPAM, and of course the Department of Public Enterprises, and Dr. Anantha Nageswaran, the Chief Economic Advisor, the CBIT and the CBDT, Mr. Shri Sanjay Agarwal, the Chairman of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, and Shri Rajiv Agarwal, the Chairman of the Central Board of Direct Taxes. And with me, Mr. Rajiv Memani, the President Designate of the CII. We have here a very, very strong, wonderful response from our corporate India on what they would like to hear from our policymakers of the budget, and also, of course, pose a few thoughts and questions, time permitting. But a very, very warm welcome once again to these very wonderful set of policymakers who have given such a strong budget to us. Ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I just would like to propose you to kindly join me in warmly thanking and applauding this wonderful team who is here with us today. I'd like to also take up this opportunity to highlight a very few quick points which we have seen in the budget as it was being read and as it was being presented by our Honorable Finance Minister. Some of the recommendations that CII have been making and some of the budget announcements that we saw, I dare say that there has been a phenomenal opportunity for industry and us at the CII to have continuous interaction, not just over the last few weeks, but over last many months. It's an exercise, an institutional continuous exercise which has been done so very well at different levels, where we have been able to air the industry viewpoints and of course the overall country's viewpoints and country's thoughts and the economic thoughts have come from this very strong team. And I'll take a few minutes to take us through some of the points that we have. If we can move the slides, please. Yeah. So here we have on the overall economy, on economic reforms and fiscal discipline, our recommendations, and this has been there for some time, to really ride on the success of the GST, a big success that we have done through the GST, the way GST Council has worked. So a GST Council-like mechanism for implementing some key reforms in the factor markets, education or agriculture, climate, labor, etc. And the continued focus on stepping on capex spending, along with sticking to our to the fiscal deficit target. And I think that's something which the government has done so much in terms of fiscal deficit glide path, as well as been really doing the heavy lifting on capex. And the debt targeting, which we saw, is really a special welcome, one can say, since it actually goes into improve our sovereign rating. So if I may, in the last 3 years, what we have seen is not much movement on the disinvestment side. And this time also, the disinvestment and monetization plan, the target, as we have seen, is about 47,000 crore. So my thought to our honorable policymakers is that, is it something, or is it some, what should we, how do we take that forward, and what's their thinking behind it? Moving to another very important area, agriculture and the allied sectors. We had recommended a host of measures, of course, as usual, and the budget presented a very bold vision for, and it started with the subject and giving a phenomenal impetus to agri growth, looking at the supply side so very strongly. And the measures on agriculture, we believe that has tremendous potential, as I mentioned, on the supply side, to deal with the food price rise that we have seen. However, just to ask, how would these measures get integrated with what the states are supposed to do on agriculture? And I mentioned this because we had, I spoke about the GST-like council earlier on, taking states along as we move. The next, again, is a very big area where we have seen strong focus and impetus on the budget in the area of manufacturing and MSME. We have, of course, been talking about rationalizing import tariffs on key electronic components. Some players from that sector, leading players from that sector, are here and initiating targeted sectoral interventions for some of the labor-intensive sectors like footwear, leather, textiles, and toys. We are indeed joyous to see much of it very strongly covered. And for MSMEs too, we saw a major employment boost possibility through the sector. Now, the question, again, if I may, is how can we have the deregulation piece linked into these sectors to generate employment. One area which has, again, has been talked about, whether has been done much or not on CapEx and infrastructure. Moving to the next slide, please. We from CII have, of course, mentioned that what we saw in the budget in terms of the focus on Gati Shakti portal being opened to the private sector has been one of the things that we have been talking for long. Seeing it in the budget has been of great motivation to us. And we do see the government having done the heavy lifting for so many years. We see the private sector being able to come into investments, adding more. It has already begun as per our survey. The perception in the media seems to be that there is a discontinuation of capex, and we did feel that perhaps you take the advantage of the forum today to clarify this point, because we are pretty strongly in our analysis, which we have kept. We do feel that the direct capex allocation for the indirect one, there is quite enough into asset creation, and our analysis pretty much highlights it. I want to move to a very important area with your permission, which is on the social sector, please. And we are again very pleased to see that the budget maintained it focused on human capital. When we talk about Viksit Bharat, that becomes so very important. There has been some strong renewed focus on the social sectors, as mentioned in this particular slide, and I'm not going to read it out. But what has been the thought behind encouraging or rather engaging states in this endeavor? This is something where we see a lot that needs to be done in the states. And this point I keep talking about states is to this August team of our highest policy makers is the next level of work that we have is really with in terms of reforms, that the tremendous work which has been done at the center is in the states of India. So how do we get them folded into this piece is a question that keeps coming to our mind and discussions. Move to a sector which has been being highlighted by us because we see a huge potential as well as employment generation ability for us. And this is one sector which we believe can transform our employment landscape, and also very importantly the
balance of payment situation? And can there be a sort of a long term, if some of the things in the budget really also require a lot of long term sort of vision and perspective. So a long term perspective or a policy towards tourism could be of great value and help. In this room, sirs, we have a strong presence of some of our multinational companies. And we are certain that in the MNCs, there are much to take away from the year's budget. We would, therefore, from the discussions that we have had with our members, maybe suggest that we establish a sort of a quarterly or a half-yearly consultation between the Ministry of Finance and our multinational council, companies members who are in CII as a council format, to feel that India is at the top when considering additional capacity and investments. I'd like to conclude there with, once again, thanking each one of you for giving so much of opportunity for prior to the budget for discussion, and today for this post-budget deliberations with the industry. Once again, gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us and spending this time with us. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd now request Rajiv Memani, President Designate of CII, and who has been actually working on the CII's policy side on economic affairs and taxation for now many years.
Thanks a lot, CB, and I would like to welcome all the dignitaries on the stage and thank them on behalf of everyone for really presenting an outstanding budget, a budget that lays down very clearly the pathways for Viksit Bharat, and the only way out for India is to create greater employment and economic opportunities for the vast pools of our population, and I think the budget really articulates that extremely well. CB mentioned the highlights of the budget, so I'm sure people will be waiting to get your perspective on that. But I do, on behalf of everyone, I do want to emphasize on two things which I thought, at least from our standpoint, were the two key highlights of the budget. One was, after a long time, the boost that was given to consumption. And I would say that on behalf of all individual taxpayers in the country, we would like to thank the government for really being so generous in the way you have approached the entire personal tax and the benefit and a sacrifice of almost 8 to 9% of the revenues in personal tax. Personal tax has been growing over the last 3 years at more than 20%. As compared to corporate tax or GST, which, if you look at over a period of last 3 years, has growing slightly more than 10% or around the average of 10%. So the individual taxpayers have been very honestly carrying the burden of taxation, and I think it was really great, given the inflation and from an equitable standpoint, that hopefully we'll see greater growth through this process. We'll see greater growth in GST collection and greater growth in corporate tax. The second thing, I think, which is really important, is the focus on ease of on doing business. And here I do want to compliment Dr. Anantha Nageswaran also. The economic survey document that he released is an exceptional document, and I think the focus on trust and the focus on ease of doing business was really good. And it was followed by what we saw in the budget, where the finance minister made that one remark: trust first, scrutinize later. And I think I can tell you that from a CII standpoint, when we talk to all our members and industry, this is the one thing that comes, that if we really need to unshackle the entrepreneurial and business opportunities in India, how we can have greater environment of ease of doing business, and for that what is really required is mutual trust, which has to be lived on both sides. And we are seeing that happening in the US. If you open the Financial Times or any newspaper, you now see Europe very, very focused on trying to see how they can enable ease of doing business. So thank you very much, sir, on on behalf of all of us here, I think these two things were really very, very critical, and hopefully will help in pushing the economy forward in the short to medium term. On the tax side, I would we are awaiting the new Direct Tax Act that will be presented in the Parliament. I hope we'll get a good opportunity to discuss the same and at least to share our thoughts on the same. It is, having had some conversations and also what was written in the budget, it's very, very focused on simplification and trying to reduce litigation, trying to reduce compliance. So we are all looking forward to it. In that spirit, sir, I would say maybe a few things which were relating in the budget, which I thought probably we could have done slightly more. On TDS, I must compliment you, the TCS reduction that you have done. I know for many companies, almost 20 to 30% of their TDS compliance has come down because of taking out the duality of TDS and TCS. And I think thank you so much for that. And if we look at TDS, there are three things that impact. One is the scope, which I think you have addressed that. But I would say still in terms of the number of sections and the number of rates that apply, we can rationalize that. We still have 30 TDS rates. We still have 20 sections that deal with TDS. If we can find, we are hoping that some of it will come through in the new income tax bill. I think some of it can be reduced. The second thing I would say is alternative dispute resolution. I think you did talk about safe harbor. You did talk about the and that will go a long way. In transfer pricing also you mentioned of the ALPs to be done once in 3 years. So at least that is noticeable, but the pile up at CIT appellate level, at the APA level, some of it is not necessarily related to the budget, but I think if we can address that, that will also go towards simplification in a meaningful way. I'm sure there will be lot of other questions, and we will. I have a few questions, but we'll also wait for people who have come here to be asking those questions. So thank you once again, sir. Thank you very much to all of you for presenting the budget, and then we can move the proceedings now.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rajiv. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting consumption. It's something that we've talked about very strongly, and we were all expecting, and we got much more than what we expected. Thank you for talking about the usage, or rather the emphasis on trust, which is again something which we all really applauded. And of course, the way we have seen the economic survey and the budget, the synchronization, if one can use the term, or the way the relationship, which was all very motivating. You ended with direct tax, and therefore that gives me an opportunity and my pleasure to request and invite Shri Ravi Agarwal, the chairman of the CBDT, to give his remarks, please.
Senior officers in the Ministry of Finance on the dais, Shri Rajiv Mewani, President-designate CII, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General CII, delegates present here, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. As was mentioned by Rajiv ji, that in this budget, the tax slabs, the rebates that have been given, ultimately that benefits nearly all the taxpayers. So therefore, it's good to see that post-budget everyone is happy, and if people are happy, we are happy. So, so yes, at the same time, with 1 lakh odd crores in the hands of the individuals and the taxpayers, that would boost consumption, that will further propel economy, and that will help in economic growth. So that way, again, it will come back, some portion of it would come back as taxes. So that is how it is. I was going through the booklet that has been presented here, wherein one sees that the proposals, suggestions that have been were made by the CII, they find place in the budget, especially in the context of the TDS, TCS, and also transfer pricing and safe harbor. Other than that, the budget proposals has the basic flavor is trust first, as was mentioned by Honorable Finance Minister, and that is reflected from a number of provisions that have been brought in the budget. The first one is rationalization of TDS and TCS rates. Now, if you see what is the purpose of TDS and TCS, one is to track the transaction, and the other is to have tax as you earn. So when you rationalize the TDS and TCS rates and the thresholds, the basic intent is that now we are trusting the taxpayers that whatever is the earning, they would report back to the tax department. The rates have been rationalized, the thresholds have also been rationalized, and if you now see the rates are only 0.1%, 1%, 2%, 10%, and then applicable rates in the case of salaried class 30%. Similarly, if you see the thresholds, those have also been rationalized. For example, in the case of LRS, 7 lakh has been brought up to 10 lakhs, and for the senior citizens on the interest, 50,000 has been increased to 1 lakh, and for commission income, the thresholds have been increased to 20,000. So this is one area. So apart from rationalizing the thresholds, then the decriminalization of TDS, TCS, and also rationalizing some of the transactions, as was mentioned by Rajiv ji, that has also been done. The other area that we have touched upon is expanding the scope of updated returns. So initially, it was only available for 2 years. Now it is available for 4 years. Now, what is the rationale behind it? The rationale is that the department is getting the data. You also get to know, the taxpayers get to know about the information after a certain period of time. And maybe there were certain gaps while reporting the income. So till now, up to 2 years, it was okay, you could go ahead and update the returns. But what happens after 3 years? So there was no way in which that self-reporting could be done. Now that has been enabled. And therefore, this expansion to 4 years is itself a way in which we want to, through a non-intrusive way, nudge the taxpayer towards compliance. Over a period of time, as we are all aware, we have leveraged on technology. The tax administration is it is no longer adversarial in nature, and it's more data-driven. Analytics is there. The artificial intelligence, we are making use of artificial intelligence, picking up whatever cases for verifications based on rules, based on data analytics, and that is the way forward. That is the way in which, in progressive economy, one has to move on. I would say that now the approach of the tax department is how do we actually participate in the national building together. And I would say that we have now a prudent approach, adopting a prudent approach towards tax administration. The prudent beings, P is let us be prompt in responsive in any situation that we get. How do we promptly respond to the concerns of the taxpayer? How should we be more professional in approach? This is how we are moving ahead. R is rule-based. So there's no longer surmises or conjectures. It has to be rule-based. U is being user-friendly. The more I make services user-friendly for the taxpayer, it is easier for the taxpayer to comply. D is being data-driven. Database policies have to be there because you have mature data, and that's how that would trigger compliance and participation of the taxpayers. Then E is enabling environment wherein we seek feedback from the taxpayer and then we actually do policies. N being non-intrusive, in administration, T is technology and transparency. So this is the approach that we are moving ahead with. The budget, in the budget it was also announced that going forward shortly we would be also introducing the new tax bill. The focus is simplification of the languages, cutting redundancies, making it easier for the people to go through the provisions to comprehend. I'll just give you one perspective that we have completed this exercise in 6 months. In the other sovereigns, this exercise was also done. They took years to do that exercise, but we have been able to do it within 6 months. So, thank you. I hope that the new document that we would be bringing for consideration would be found useful to the taxpayer community. In this context, I would like to urge and request you all that having released the document, how can we actually, as a group, it's not a you or a me approach, as a we approach, how can we actually further better the entire setup? So, in case there are questions that emerge, what could be the possible questions? If you could flag it to us, we would, answer those questions, document it, so that for future, that clarity is there. Unless until that clarity is there, there would be prone to litigation, because change in language may involve more litigation. But now is the time that we clarify the provisions, we answer to all the questions that may emerge out of the changed text, and then going ahead, that would help us a lot. There are so many changes also that we have done in the Act, which is touching upon different segments of the taxpayers, be it trust, be it in, transfer pricing, in the case of transfer pricing, MSMEs. We have tried to introduce a new concept where instead of an annual determination of arm's length price, it is to be done for a certain number of years. Similarly, for electronics industry also, there is some element of safe harbor which has been introduced, which I'm sure would provide a lot of comfort to the industry. On the appeals side, yes, the litigation, we are working on that, we are conscious about it, and we have actually ramped up our appellate manpower also on this. We are alive to the fact that the number of appeals are significant. VSVS scheme has also received good response from the taxpayer, and in fact I would say that close to about 10% of the appeals pendency we would be able to take care of it through this VSVS that has a scheme that for which the deadline was 31st of January.
Well, I'll not take much time. I would again thank you for all the support that you've given, and I'm looking forward. We as a department, in fact, are looking forward to getting more feedback from you, especially in the context of the new document that we are proposing to bring in the next week itself. And let me assure you that each of the suggestions that we would receive would get due consideration, because ultimately what we want is to give this document to India, to the country, a good, robust document. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raviji, for this very straightforward and very clear sort of an understanding of many of the thoughts that has gone behind into the budget on the direct tax side. And sincere thanks once again for this partnership and your invitation for more suggestions and this continuous interaction. Thank you very much once again. I will not summarize some of the points that you said, but I'm sure there are some people who have already been texting in terms of some questions that they would have for you. With that, I'll now move to the CBIT and Customs. My pleasure and honor to invite Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, the Chairman of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs.
dignitaries on the dais, captains of Indian industry, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to join this interactive session organized by CII and share the thought process which has gone into making the budget proposals on custom side and certain insights in this process. Let me begin with the rate rationalization exercise on customs duty structure which has been carried out as announced by Honorable Finance Minister in July 24 budget. This exercise was conducted with the objective that duty structure has to be simplified, will have to ensure economic competitiveness of Indian industry wherever higher protection is to be provided for short duration, that is to be provided and is of doing business. And I will tell you the magnitude of this exercise. There are 12,500 tariff lines, and we conducted this exercise in respect of industrial goods. We excluded the agriculture goods and textiles because these are the sensitive areas and lot of calibration is required as per the need. So this exercise got restricted to 8,500 tariff lines, and when we conducted this exercise, we thought about that policy should remain stable. Policy stability is of utmost importance, and out of this 8,500 tariff lines, 6,500 tariff lines are in a very narrow band of 0% to 10% in a graded manner with a distinctive stage in value chain. So raw materials and components are at either 0 or 2.5%, intermediate at 5 or 7.5%, capital goods at 7.5%, finished goods at 10%. Certain items which are covered under PLI or PMP schemes are at 15 and 20%. Other than that, we found that there are few items where the tariff rate is very high and which creates lot of bad optics for the tariff structure in India. We found that there are items at 150%, single item, 125%, single item. Maybe tariff lines may be more for that single item, but single item. On 100% again 3 items broadly, on 40% again 3 items, 35% 3-4 items, similarly for 30% again 3 items, where the effective rate was already less than 20%. For 25% again the same story. So it has been thought that tariff lines, tariff rates which are above 70% will be brought down to 70%, and between 20 to 70% will be brought down to 20%. And by doing this exercise, we corrected the optics. The average customs duty rate now has come down from 10.65% to from 11.65% to 10.65%. And we are moving towards the average tariff rate in ASEAN countries. The corrective exercise, it sets the optics right, but we did not want to upset the competitiveness of Indian industry. So it has been ensured that AIDC is imposed either at the same level to compensate or at a lower level. So duties have been brought down in certain cases. In certain cases, the overall duty incidence has been kept at the same level. Another thing which has been done for simplification is that there were items which were attracting BCD, attracting cess, attracting surcharge also. So it has been thought that it should not attract both cess and surcharge. So on 82 tariff lines, surcharge has been exempted. We also noticed that there were items in last budget which have been brought from 2.5% to nil, critical minerals. And in this budget, there are 12 critical mineral waste which have been brought down to nil rate to give boost to National Critical Mineral Mission and the facilities which are being created for recycling of this critical mineral waste that we sometimes call as urban mining. The products are available in the country, outside the country, those will have to be recycled to make available these critical minerals for the manufacture of semiconductors, for transitioning to renewable energy, clean energy, for space applications. So by tariffizing the rate on critical minerals, again that has helped us in lowering this average customs duty rates. This is as far as rationalization of customs rates. Apart from that, the thrust in the budget is to ensure that domestic manufacturing and value addition is promoted, exports are promoted, trade facilitation is enhanced, and wherever is possible, the common people are given certain reliefs, say by way of either bringing exemption to certain life-saving drugs, of rare diseases, or bringing down the duty rate on baggage. Many might not have noticed the duty rate on baggage, personal baggage, has come down from 38.5% to 35%. Similarly, many more such rationalization measures have been taken. But one thing which has not been noticed so far to large extent is the amendments which have been brought in Customs Act. The impact of it which is going to happen in imports and exports. So let me elaborate on that briefly because I will not be taking much time. We are interested in having questions from your side. So one is that on provisional assessment, earlier there was no time limit. We have noticed that provisional assessment remained pending for 5 years or maybe more than that. Some cases up to 10 years or maybe more. So a definite time limit has been brought in finalization of provisional assessment to give certainty to the businesses. Now India is integrating and in the global supply chains, many companies, they are setting up their manufacturing facilities in India. And these companies, they import from the related entities abroad. And these are subjected to related party transaction scrutiny, and in such cases provisional assessments are ordered or kept. So to these multinationals and the companies who are setting up the manufacturing facility under shifting of global supply chain to India, it was very essential for us to provide them certainty, finalize the provisional assessment in a time-bound manner. That has been done. Apart from that, to encourage the voluntary compliance, and that was asked earlier, and that the process which is to be followed post clearance in case some mistake is noticed by the importer, because importers have to file the self-assessed bills of entries, and subsequently if they notice any discrepancy, they had no option but to come to the department for amendment of the bills of entries and make the payment. Now a facility, a section has been inserted in Customs Act, and facility has been provided that they can file a declaration on their own, make the payment of duty along with interest without penalty, provided there is no audit or investigation which has been initiated by the department. So this is a huge facility to correct any mistake which has happened post clearance. In case they have paid excess duty, present procedure is that they will have to go in appeal, obtain an appellate order, then come back to the department, seek for amendment, and then file a refund claim. The whole process would take more than a year. So that entire procedure has been streamlined now. Now they will have to simply file a declaration, voluntary declaration, and if it is on excess duty payment, that declaration itself will be treated as a refund claim, will be processed by the department in the same manner as other refund claims are being processed. Thirdly, I would like to mention that IGCR, that import of goods at concessional rate, is frequently used for encouraging make in India. Inputs are allowed with end use condition. Sometimes end use conditions are related to exports. And there was a concern and demand from the industry that there are certain inputs which they are not able to process within 6 months period which was prescribed, and they had to come back to the department for seeking extension of time. There the time limit has been increased to 1 year and further extended by 3 months, and requirement of filing a monthly statement has now been changed to a quarterly statement. It will again be a huge relief to the trade who will be using IGCR facility for importing the input at concession rate for a specific use. Similarly, department is embarked upon the digitalization of the processes which are still manual, although most of the processes are already digitalized. That was also mentioned by the Honorable Finance Minister in last year budget speech. There again lot of work has been done. Many processes, manual processes have now been digitalized, and it is a work in progress. Many more will be rolled out in near future. So we are committed to bring ease of doing business to the exporting and importing community. And before I conclude, I would like to say that the government, trade bodies and industry stakeholders have to work collaboratively, hand in hand, in identification of the bottlenecks, implement solutions, and seize on the emerging opportunities. And I can assure you, if any issue is brought to our notice, we will be very proactive in resolving the issues, finding the solutions, and getting it implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanjay ji. In both the CBDT and the CBIC chair speeches, we noted the focuses on simplification or rationalization or ease of living, so to say, tech, digital, and also the issues on collaboration. Particularly wanted to thank you also for the duty part that you raised, and so much of rationalization we have seen on it with a focus on, and especially the trade side and customs simplifications. Thank you very much once again. I wanted to also at this point mention that there is a lot of thoughts which are there and questions which are beyond budget when it goes to areas like GST. And Rajiv will navigate those troubled waters as we come to the question answer session on the GST side of it, please. And with that, I move now to the one who presented a very dynamic, strong, and a very well articulated economic survey for us, the Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. V. Anantha Nageswaran, to make his remarks, please.
Thank you, CB, Mr. Rajiv Memani, and my dear colleagues at the Ministry of Finance, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts. Just as the financial accounts of the Government of India have a budget estimate and then a revised estimate, since we are running about half an hour behind time, we need to have a revised estimate for the timelines related to this event. So I'll try to keep my remarks within the 7 minutes allotted to me. So one of the things that we are particularly happy to share with you is that although the budget document or the budget speech of the Honorable Finance Minister doesn't spell it out, but it is quite clear that the current state of the world in terms of geopolitical and geo-economic uncertainties is very much the driving force behind many of the proposals you see in the budget, including the widely discussed tax cut and the revision of tax slabs given to various individual income taxpayers. What it does is, apart from boosting disposable income, which of course in the hands of the recipients, they can choose to allocate it to consumption or savings, in whichever proportion they would like to do so, but both would be positive for the economy. If it were to be directed towards consumption, it would boost aggregate demand, which is one of the important ingredients that the private sector looks for, demand visibility, to be able to undertake capital formation. There is a perception that the private sector hasn't been investing as much as we would have liked to see. I can understand the uncertainties that the private sector is grappling with post-COVID. There was a war that broke out in Europe, and then there was interest rate tightening after several long years of low interest rates, etc. But certainly data will tell you, and we will have the data for financial year ending March 2024 towards the end of this month from the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which will give you the granular breakdown of capital formation, and you will notice that the private sector has indeed been investing. Maybe the pace is not as much as one would have liked to see, because the benchmarks that we use pertain to the first decade of the millennium, when the world was a different place. So we can't have that kind of benchmark in mind for capital formation growth in the private sector. Therefore, given this context, what this particular tax cut move does is to reduce the demand uncertainty in the domestic economy, and thereby giving a nudge to the private sector capital formation. And that is a very important policy direction that the tax cut actually suggests. And mention was made also of the public sector capital formation. While the union government's capital expenditure allocation was almost the same as the last year's budget estimate, it is a 10% improvement over the revised estimate. And also we need to take into consideration the fact that capital expenditure is done by the entire public sector, which includes the union government, public sector enterprises, and also if you include the grants in aid for capital expenditure, which for accounting purposes may be classified as revenue. But if you take all these three into consideration, public sector capital formation is budgeted to be 19.8 lakh crores, or 19.8 trillion rupees, compared to the revised estimate, compared to the budget estimate of 18.7 lakh crores for FY25. That is a 1.1 lakh crore increment for the overall public sector capital expenditure. And obviously, as the base becomes larger and larger, one may not be able to naturally maintain the same pace of growth. So what you see in corporate earnings setting also applies here. A larger base does preclude a large delta as well going forward. The other area which I would like to touch upon, which although the chairperson of CBIC did speak about the duty reductions on various critical minerals, etc. I think the important thing that the survey noted, has been noting in the last 2-3 years, and also repeated in this survey, is the importance of energy security and energy affordability at the same time. Without that, potential GDP growth cannot rise. And many of the economic slowdown and stagnation which we are witnessing in different parts of the world can arguably be attributed to higher energy cost, which were induced by the energy transition efforts. And therefore, it's very important that we need to make sure that the energy transition happens smoothly. And there is a second factor that the budget has kept in mind, which is to ensure that the supply chain resilience for energy transition is enhanced, because there is a concentration of dependence on a single source for many of the inputs that we use for solar energy and e-mobility, etc. That is why I think the budget has given a lot of importance to ensuring that with respect to energy security, we have the amendment to the proposed amendment to the Atomic Energy Act, and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act, which will bring in the private sector and international collaboration also possibly for nuclear energy. And also it has announced a clear target of 100 gigawatt of nuclear power generation by 2047. And a clear commitment to operationalizing at least 5 small modular reactors by 2033, apart from the various items that the chairperson CBIC mentioned, removal of basic customs duty on critical minerals, scrapping of the basic customs duty on the scrap lithium-ion battery, etc., and exempting from duty 35 additional capital goods for EV battery manufacturing. So I think these are things which are very important for enhancing the long-term growth potential of the economy. In the interest of time, I will not go into other areas where the budget has carried forward the work done in the July 2024 budget, particularly with respect to employment generation and education and skilling. The schemes for footwear and leather sectors and the making India a global hub for toys, boost to tourism, and above all, the regulatory reform proposals in terms of forming the high-level committee on regulation, on deregulation, etc. All of this will go towards boosting the employment potential of the Indian industry, particularly small and medium enterprises. So, in short, what this budget does is not only to address the current questions in people's minds about the momentum in the Indian economy, but also set the Indian economy on a stronger path to medium-term growth by addressing issues such as capital formation in the private sector, energy security, employment, and skilling. Therefore, this budget actually is a very clear recognition and demonstration of the government's commitment to ensuring that the Indian economy is able to grow on the strength of domestic demand levers in a world that is going to remain uncertain, both in terms of politics and economics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your, what would I say? It is always a, the way you explain some of the thoughts of yourself and of the government in terms of the steps being taken it helps us to get that perspective and understand it in our discussions and deliberations within industry very strongly. Thank you once again very much, and thanks for being gracious. You've donated quite a bit of the time to make up for it, and I move to therefore Dr. Arunish Chawla, the Secretary DIPAM and Secretary DPE, for his address and remarks, please.
Good afternoon, friends. Secretary Deepam speaks the least, so I'll donate some more of your time. I now double up as Secretary Public Enterprises and Secretary Investment and Asset Management. And in that role, one of my jobs is to nudge the public sector to give you a run for the money. But let me assure you, me and Chandrajit Banerjee, we are the same tie today, so we are essentially on the same side. I would share very briefly the strategy we have evolved and we would follow going forward regarding the public enterprises. The idea behind bringing the two departments together was to ensure that corporate strategy and asset management come together, and they're seen together as part of a composite framework. And that composite framework consists of 5 essential elements. Our endeavor would be to enhance value, or you can say optimize value of the public sector, the public enterprises, not just for the government, which is its promoter, but also for the minority stakeholders and the Aam Aadmi, the citizens who have invested their precious savings, repose their faith in us. They would be uppermost in our mind. This essentially means that we bring together the elements of corporate performance, the elements of sustained capex, which is very much a part of what public sector is supposed to do. We communicate clearly and timely, neither before time nor after time. And last but not the least, we ensure the dividend policy of the public enterprises is sustained, consistent, and creates value for the small investor. The fifth element of the composite strategy would be calibrated asset monetization of various types, which includes asset sales, which includes public offerings, listings, and dilution by other means, including strategic disinvestment. It is one of the intro remarks, it was mentioned, so I would like to place it on record that our policy towards handling public enterprises and its asset monetization and calibrated disbursement continues to be on track, and it will continue to be so. A calibrated approach is based on a well thought out strategy. No one sells off anyone's asset overnight. It has to be part of a thought out process, and there are trade-offs involved between sustained revenues. We also have to see the market conditions. We also have to see the appetite. And giving all these aspects in mind, we will, I assure you, place the best foot forward. Thank you very much for inviting me here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chawla, for your short and very clear message. And we will bear in mind when we open it up to questions on the calibrated approach with that sustainable revenue, the market, and the appetite, because there are questions around the subject a lot. Now, I move to Secretary, Department of Financial Services, Secretary DFS, Mr. M. Nagaraju, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Respected my colleagues from the Minister of Finance and Mr. Banerjee, and all the invited distinguished guests. I would confine myself to the announcements made relating to the Department of Financial Services, what I'd likely impact. I'm not going to look at insights, because there are many insights into some simple issue. The first one, of course, reclassification of MSMEs, micro, medium, and small enterprises. We expect that this classification will allow them to borrow more money from the financial institutions and also scale up their exports in large scale. So that is a good impact, which will lead to, may lead to employment generation. And along with that, the credit guarantee cover that was enhanced from 5 to 10 crore from the small and from micro and small enterprises, and startups from 10 to 20 crores. We estimated yesterday and today, likely that in the next 5 years, this may lead to additional guarantee cover of 1.5 lakh crore. And it may also lead to boost the startup ecosystem in the country, and of course facilitate exports, helping in earning foreign currency and generating more employment. Coming to the fund of funds for startups, this 10,000 crores that has been kept. We had some experience in the past with the SIDBI. Now this also we will have, we'll take a view whether we would house it in the SIDBI or outside. And the startup is the one where actually while the debt is available in the stage 2, stage 3, but in the initial startup of bright ideas, actually we don't have equity. Of course, the funding is short, and also there is not much equity. So we would like to have both equity and debt under this funding mechanism. And we are expecting that with the bank co-financing, it may be anywhere between 20 to 25,000 crore in the next 5 years. And we are expecting to support at least 500 well-capitalized startups in the country through this fund. Coming to the partial credit enhancement facility, which we are going to set up through National Infrastructure Bank. This will, of course, I think this is the private sector bonds that we are going to issue. We are partially going to cover, enhance the credit cover. This will deepen the India's bond market, one, and ensure that the credit is available at competitive rates and at efficiency rate, and also the lower rated borrowers also will be able to borrow from the market. And with the large infrastructure requirement for the country, funding requirement for the country, we expect that this is partial credit enhancement facility will greatly facilitate investment. Now, the customized credit card for micro enterprises. This year we are going to, DA Secretary ordered me that you have to issue 10 lakh credit cards this year. I said, yes, sir. And we are going to do 10 lakhs and up to 5 lakhs. And we are going to build systems to capture the credit worthiness of these micro enterprises through digital and other means, and ensure that they have hassle-free. Each time they want to borrow, they need not apply fresh. And that's my priority, to ensure that these people are not, banks will not ask too many questions whenever they apply. And we are expecting additional credit of 25 to 30,000 crores each year under this credit card to the MSMEs. Swami Fund 2, I think we all know that one has done wonderfully well. We have almost spent about 10,000 crores in the fund. And this time also we are proposing a 10,000 crores. And the stuck-up projects, we are again trying to focus on that. We would be, with this fund available fund, a new fund, we'll be able to do about 1 lakh units, dwelling units. And all of us know that in the NCR region, large number of projects are stuck up. And it should eliminate the delays and lead to resolution, and should be able to the purchasers should be able to get their dwelling units quickly. Now, the other thing which I'm actually very personally pleased was Gramin Credit Score. Okay, this is the one issue where we have been. One farmer told me that first time when I went to the bank said they looked at the CIBIL score and found that it doesn't exist, and then he said we can't give you the loan. And we were surprised, because large number of rural people, they are out of the formal financial system. Just because somebody is out of financial system doesn't mean that he doesn't have credit worthiness to lend. So we want to capture them through a different and innovative means, so that they should be able to, first time rural women and rural farmers should be able to capture their credit worthiness and get the loans from the banks. This is basically for them. Actually, we want to bring more inclusive development, more financial inclusion. We would need to look at it. And also the unmet demands of SHG groups and SHG group members. This is the one which we are going to use, so that more lending will be directed to the women entrepreneurs. And of course, the other one which has baby steps we have taken here, to have a coordination forum for pension products. You know, we have a PFRDA in the market, but we also have other pension agencies managing separately without much coordination. Now we want to have a forum whereby, like we have a Financial Development Council headed by the Honorable Finance Minister. Similar kind of thing we would like to have for the pension products, so that they will be able to coordinate actions, bring efficiencies, and also learn from each other and see what it leads to for future. So this will be PFIDA will be convening this, but all other agencies like Coal Mines Pension Fund, EPFO, and Income Tax Department, plus private sector, all of them will be able to have some forum to express and design new facilities for the pension, to reach the pension society. The last one, I think, no, it's not last one. The big one is 100% FDI in insurance sector. I think all of you will be much more interested. You know, now since 2002 till now, when we started FDI into insurance sector, till now we have received only 82,000 crores worth of FDI in the insurance. Too little for a country of our size and potential. Now we wanted to bring it to 100%. One, of course, to bring the higher FDI levels, but also to ensure that the uninsured are insured. Both our assets as well as the people, we need actually different kinds of levels of insurance thing. When market is not developing, we need much more market development as compared to present. Now, along with that, we also announced that the rules governing the insurance sector also will be reviewed and simplified, so that we have some restrictive practices. I think many of you know. Those restrictive practices also will be simplified, or we will do that along with this bill. This bill, we already got approval of the Honorable Finance Minister. We will try to do it quickly as possible. I hope at least before the end of this year, we will have a decision beyond this. So our idea is that we will have larger players, bring more innovative products, and also bring technology and global best practices for insurance sector. Now coming to the KYC registration, we wanted to revamp central KYC registration. You know, we have been doing it, but we've made it much more now ambitious in the budget, saying that we will simplify further and revamp the central KYC, and we will ensure that the data is verified by the document issuing authorities. We will provide. We are also going to use AI, also face auth. We are going to do that, and we also provide. We would like to provide a view-only thing to the clients to see their KYC details. We want to make it much more credible source of KYC records, and also we want to eliminate duplication. There is a large number of records. Many persons must be having a couple of 2-3 KYC because of the name mismatches. That we want to weed out the entries. Now, coming to the KCC, enhanced credit through KCC, you know, we have currently about 7.72 crore KCC cards in the country, and we actually spend on the KCC cover about 23,000 crores of thing. Now, with this additional thing, we will be spending anywhere between 3.5 thousand crore for this. It will benefit about 80 lakh farmers. They will be able to get enhanced credit guarantee from the KCC if they take it. 80 lakh farmers in the country. This is a huge number considering the small change we made in the KCC. Now, the scheme for first-time entrepreneurs, this is, again, we have, earlier it used to be their Stand Up India scheme for the women, SC, ST entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs. And we used to do it one per person, at least one loan per bank, per branch in the country when it was launched. But now we are expanding it to from 10 lakhs to 2 crore, the limit. And then we wanted to give much more visibility to the scheme in the among the banks. We are expecting that at least, as per the announcement, we want to cover at least 5 lakh entrepreneurs in the next 5 years. This is going to be a big help to the women as well as SC, ST budding entrepreneurs. Now, PM Swanidhi, I think we all know how much help it has had during the COVID time, street vendors covering them, the loans. And this again now with the limit of 30,000, this is also going to provide affordable credit to the street vendors. Now, Mudra scheme, we have been doing well. I think all of you know that we came up with Tarun Plus. We have issued guidelines extending the up to 20 lakhs recently. This is as per July budget announcement. Now we are coming up with this homestays. This will to promote tourism, heritage tourism, spiritual tourism, many places. I think these people can use this to do this. Now also we have one thing is on tax relief under NPS Vatsalya. Now with this we expect that till now we launched this one NPS Vatsalya in the month of September. Since September till now we have done about 90,000 subscribers under the NPS Vatsalya scheme. And now with the tax benefits now available with the budget, we expect much more impact and traction to this thing. Now one thing which I would like to, is really not mine, but I would like to touch upon was Urban Challenge Fund of Urban Challenge Fund. You know, this we would like to utilize fully to leverage from the bank finance also, because urban centers are the one which require huge infrastructure uplift. I think too many cities for too long time are not providing many basic facilities to citizens. I think we need to challenge these cities to come up with the winnow-to solutions, partnerships, and also new and also ownership by them. So we will, the financial institutions will be actually partnering in developing the ecosystem for urban challenge, so that the urban financing is no longer a constraint for developing the cities. Now the last thing which I touch, since the Revenue Department has given so much tax relief to the citizens, what would be its impact on the banking sector? So we done rough calculations, and there are three things actually, of course. One is senior citizens, enhancement tax relief. The other is everybody got a tax relief, including myself. And we expected how much would be, how many people are going to spend or keep it in the bank account, everything. Based on our existing methodology, with a few assumptions, we expect anywhere between 40 to 45,000 crores additional amount likely to be kept in the banks, which will lead to additional lending by banks to the entrepreneurs, which will lead to, again, employment. So this is a win-win for everybody. As everybody says, a rising tide lifts all the boats. I think this budget also is going to be good for every section of the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nagaraju. You know, there's so much for everyone. There's so many things to talk about, so much that can be discussed. We're not trying to attempt to cover everything today, but there's a lot that this needs to be, lot for which there needs to be a continuous discussion and collaboration, so that many of what we have seen in the budget can be taken up by the private sector and industry in many manners and play a role in the months to come. With that, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to request and invite in the Secretary DEA, Shri Ajay Seth, to give his remarks and address, please.
Very good afternoon, President-designate Mr. Rajiv, Director General Mr. Chandrajit, all the members of CII, and my colleagues from the ministry. I'll try to economize on time, do a time consolidation, fiscal consolidation, one of the recommendations of CII, and I have a problem on hand. My team gave me today morning, there are 9 items from CII's very well-researched work which had come as inputs for budget process. But when I landed up here, I find a document here which has 18 pages for Part A alone. So what is the original which the entire set of senior officers sitting in Finance Ministry have come out with an original idea? If I can borrow a few phrases from Bollywood, no idea gets copied. They get inspired by each other. Or we can settle for all great minds think alike. But on a more serious note, and first one was also a serious note, we're all great minds. It has been a wonderful partnership over the year, working with CII, not just on a budget to budget, but during the course of the year, bouncing off ideas with each other, working it out, what is working, what is not working, having good understanding. You are the people who are on the ground, you are running your businesses. You have your suppliers, you have your customers, you get to know the first. We read the data, but you are the ones who run the economy. Plus interacting with you in terms of ideas, how to translate that idea into programs at the ground. What should get into the policy making, what should nudge the policy levers. That has been a good partnership. Please keep doing so, have that partnership with us. Moving forward, I'm not getting into that what those 9 things or 18 pages are common. I'm getting into what has been announced in the budget and how we get them off the ground, implemented in a very, very effective manner. And I have 5 requests to make and through CII. And I've listed those items wherein these are great ideas. We have some ideas that how to implement it. But this again would request CII team to do that work and interact with us over coming weeks itself. First piece is around manufacturing mission. That's a piece which requires a lot of work to be done. It is a whole lot of coordination issues are required, sector by sector, state by state issues have to be sorted out. What kind of a mechanism, what kind of a structure should be put on that manufacturing mission? While this budget places a lot of emphasis and right focus on agriculture and rural areas because significant population will continue to be there, the next port of call has to be expand our manufacturing base very, very significantly. There's a big piece to be done and taking the story really forward on this area. The second one is the high-level committee on non-financial regulations, processes, licenses, permissions, certifications, a big area. How you will propose that this, who will be in the committee will get decided in due course of time. But what should be the TOR? In what manner this committee should get into? Should committee get into the ground level observations or should get into the satellite level observation? Both will be an extreme. If they are at the ground level observations, there is a retail way of changing the things, they will get lost. But if they have a satellite view, it will be so macro that everything is all right, nothing will get changed. So where to pitch in their work so that the recommendations are available within a year and actionable recommendations are available. Help us out in working with us, getting it grounded in a right manner and the procedure that how you should go about it. Third piece, and I'm aware that CII has a very strong unit and several of you work on the PPP area, public-private partnership. If another good attempt, doing it much better than what we have been doing in the past, that what needs to be done, what needs to be done differently to get it right this time. And there's a continuous story, but somehow that is something is not clicking in the right manner. So there's again, I'll request that your vertical, which works on that, and several of your members who are in the infrastructure sector, what we can do together in that piece. I have 2 more items, and the one where your team has already done the work on the research, development and innovation. Now, last year we were talking about how to get that structure in place. That structure is ready to be appraised any day now, and thereafter gets for an approval. And Finance Minister has allocated a fairly large sum, 20,000 crore of partnership with the private sector, partnership-led research and development. Can we work toward a scenario where before end of the year, there are good quality proposals to use up the entire 20,000 and saying if there were more money, we could have taken more money. We could have implemented more proposals there. That is something, we can buy technology to some extent from outside, is available. But several of our pieces, our capabilities, we have to do it ourselves. And this is not a pure research in science, it is about applied technology and developing our own products. And the last one is a big ticket item, which is really a big one, which is on the nuclear energy. The working with the private sector, developing and institutionalizing or operationalizing 5 SMRs in next 8 years, developing our own technology. Those of you who are on a large companies who have been supplying heavy industries and have been in that area on the energy field, how that partnership can happen, because without private sector taking a lead there, of course regulations will remain with the government in terms of the safety regulations, it won't be possible. And that is one technology which will remain constructed, which will remain constrained, it will not be available off the shelf ever. We'll have to develop that technology, and that's a big area we have to go. Government has shown a very, very big resolve to implement or rather amend 2 key acts which are necessary to make it happen. Now, it is for rest of us to make it happen that thereafter the structures are in place, private sector it steps up in saying that we will do the true partnership to make that happen, because our solution to energy transition, to my mind, in the long term, has to come from that source. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Shri Seth, for your very sharp and quick bullet points on manufacturing, the high-level committee, the PPP area of work that we can work on, the R&D, private sector stepping it up, and the role, and of course the nuclear. Thank you, and we will work on all of this with you, and thanks for all the space that you have given to the industry for deliberating and discussing ideas. I now move to our final speaker and request and invite Shri Tuhin Kanta Pandey, the Finance and the Revenue Secretary, to give his remarks and address, please.
Mr. Memani, Mr. Chandrit Banerjee, my colleagues, distinguished audience, I propose a second revised estimates of time, so therefore I will, if he had bullet points, Ajay had bullet points, I will have super bullet points on the budget, because I think we need to leave some time for the questions. Overall guidance of the Prime Minister was, let it be a pro-growth, pro-poor, pro-reforms, pro-taxpayers, especially for the middle class. The Finance Minister led the team. We worked as a team. And obviously, as you know, any budget is a balancing of different imperatives, balancing of different perspectives, bringing several objectives together. Economy, everything is linked to everything else. So therefore, you know, you may like to do something more, but it may have an adverse impact on something else. But overall, you know, our emphasis have been, as Anantha put it, you know, we have geopolitical situation, we have global headwinds, we have geoeconomic fragmentation seen every day. So we have a certain portion of the market, and India is pretty open. That particular market is always under a certain level of suspense, our export markets. But at the same time, we do have also our opportunities of demography and demand, and some of the factors that we had on demand side need to be also pushed. So we worked on demand side measures, we worked on also supply side measures, and you will see it plenty, and all of these things are woven across the thing. Reform, as I said, FM said, reform as a fuel. So you have to have reforms everywhere, the way we look at it. And obviously, one of the main reforms, you know, apart from the sectoral reforms, is the regulatory reforms in terms of governance. And that's very important. And you will notice that most of our tax proposals and other areas is the governance that has always coming out over and over and again, which is whether it is ease of doing business, whether it is ease of compliance, bringing technology, trusting. And trust first is what FM always announced, and also in relation to the taxation. So I think we have done our bit in order to prepare grounds for actually not only sustain the growth, but also propel it further. Given our headwinds, we all have to put together as as a team, not really a finance ministry team, but our team of Team India, in order to work on several things that we have been talking about. We have done a lot, but we need to do more. And Adam Smith had something in mind, you know, when he said animal spirit. So why is it that, you know, he was finding that he didn't say human spirit. He said animal spirit. So human, which is a category of an animal biologically, also has something which, you know, mind. And this mind goes off and on, and it's sometimes unpredictable. It could be moody. And therefore, when he said we have to revive the entrepreneurial spirit, we said revive animal spirits in you. That means animal is something which is free from all these bondage of, what will happen, what will this thing, and too much of calculation. So I think I'll encourage the industry now. Now I think you have to inculcate animal spirit in you and try and invest. Some of you have been waiting for investment. Some of you are saying, what will happen? We have to make too much of calculation. I think the time to plunge is now. We must do for Viksit Bharat. I think for industry, the time to plunge is now. Any pain points, please get in touch with us. We are ready to resolve. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really, really short, sweet, and more than a bullet. Thank you. And yes, the ball is greatly, as you have said, in the court of the industry to invest, given such a great playing field has been put up. Between Rajiv and myself, we'll try and pick up a few names quickly for questions. Please keep it straight question, and if there is directed to one of our dignitaries, please mention the name. But please be very straight and sharp in your question. Bahram Bakil's name was on the front row, but I kept searching, but he sent a message that he wants to talk. Is he still around or is he not there? Then I'll go ahead and come